There's a weight to a bench made from a single rough slab of wood that can't be replicated by manufactured furniture. It's not just a seat. It's not just something you put in a hallway, along a dining table, or out in the garden. It's a statement, a grounding presence that reminds you, every time you see it, that this came from something real, that it was once part of a tree, standing tall, stretching skyward, weathering sun and rain for decades or even centuries before being cut, milled, and transformed into a piece of functional art. When you look at one of these benches, the first thing you notice isn't the design, or the joinery, or even the finish. You notice the slab itself, the sheer thickness of it, the natural edges still holding the memory of back, curves, knots, and undulations. No two slabs are ever the same, because no two trees ever grow the same. Some are straight and smooth, others waver and twist, their live edges sweeping like gentle waves. The grain pulls your eyes across its length, rings of growth circling out from knots or fading into streaks of sapwood and hardwood. The surface might be sanded to a silky smoothness, but it never loses the texture, the lines, the imperfections that make it feel alive. These benches are heavy, and they look heavy, but that's part of the appeal. They aren't meant to feel like lightweight, disposable pieces you can move on a whim. They're anchors. You place one in a space, and suddenly the space feels settled. A dining room feels warmer. A porch feels more rooted. A modern, minimal interior gains a focal point that feels like nature carved straight into the room. Even outdoors, on a patio or in a garden, a rough slab bench feels like it belongs. It doesn't fight against the landscape. It looks like it grew there. Most of these benches start as slabs from hardwoods: walnut, oak, maple, elm, ash. Each has its own personality. Walnut brings deep, chocolate-rich tones, often with streaks of lighter sapwood that make the bench feel dynamic. Oak carries strength, visible pores, and rugged character, especially when left with a natural oil finish that deepens its warm, golden browns. Maple is pale, almost creamy, with a quiet elegance that suits modern spaces. Elm, with its swirling grain and stubborn knots, feels wilder, less tamed, perfect for rustic or outdoor use. Each slab tells a story through its grain, and the craftsman's job is to highlight that story without erasing it. The rough edges, the live edges, are what make these benches stand apart from standard furniture. Instead of clean, uniform cuts, the sides follow the natural line of the tree, often curving and dipping in unpredictable ways. You might see a knot that dips inward, a jagged sky where a branch once grew, or a gentle sweep that mirrors the natural taper of the trunk. These aren't flaws. They are features. They are what make each bench one of a kind. No template, no duplication, just one tree, one slab, one bench. The legs, though secondary to the slab itself, matter just as much to the overall presence. Some benches use simple steel bases, dark, matte finished, angular, to contrast the warmth of the wood. Others stick with solid wood legs, often shaped from the same slab to keep everything cohesive. Some are traditional trestles. Some are chunky blocks. Some are minimalist with hidden supports that make the slab seem like it's floating. The design varies, but the principle stays the same. Let the slab be the star. The legs should support, not distract. These benches aren't just decorative. They are functional, but they don't feel utilitarian. When you sit on one, you notice the solidity. There's no give, no creak, just a steady, unmoving surface that feels like it will outlast every other piece of furniture in the space. You can sit alone, stretch across it, or gather a group around it. It doesn't matter. The bench doesn't change. It remains a fixed, reliable form that can handle use without losing any of its quiet elegance. Because they are made from single slabs, these benches also carry a connection to time. Every growth ring you see on the surface represents a year, decades, sometimes more than a century, captured in a single horizontal plane. It's hard not to think about the tree's life when you sit on one. How long it grew, what storms it endured, how much sun it saw, and now it holds people, meals, conversations, memories. It's still serving a purpose, even in a completely different form. Finishes play a big role in how these benches feel. Some are polished to a near-mirror sheen, highlighting every curl and wave in the grain, giving the wood an almost liquid quality. Others are finished with a simple hand-rubbed oil or wax, keeping the look natural, matte, and understated. Some are even left slightly rough, sanded just enough to avoid splinters but still carrying the tactile texture of the tree. Each choice changes how the bench interacts with light and touch. A glossy surface reflects the room, catching glints of sunlight during the day. A matte surface absorbs light, giving the bench a quiet, grounded presence that feels softer, more relaxed. Over time, these benches develop a patina. The wood might darken, especially in species like cherry or walnut. Edges may soften slightly from contact. Scratches and dings may appear, but they don't ruin the bench, they add to it. Unlike mass-produced furniture, which often looks worse with age, a solid wood slab bench gains character as the years pass. It becomes a record of use, of life, of the people who sat on it, leaned against it, gathered around it. Outdoors, the changes are even more dramatic. Left unfinished, the wood will eventually weather to a silvery gray, the grain rising as the softer fibers erode. Some people prefer this look, letting the bench blend naturally into the landscape. Others protect the wood with oils or finishes to preserve its original color. Either way, the bench adapts. It doesn't fail. It just evolves. And there's something undeniably grounding about sitting on a piece like this. In a world filled with synthetic surfaces and disposable materials, resting on a bench made from a single slab of wood feels different. It feels slower, more honest. You can run your fingers along the grain and feel the history. You can trace the live edge and remember that this was once part of something far larger than yourself. It's a subtle but powerful connection to the natural world, brought into your home or garden in a form you can use every day. People often find that these benches become the focal point of the spaces they occupy, even when that wasn't the original intention. Guests notice them. They gravitate toward them. They ask about the wood, about where it came from, about how it was shaped. The bench becomes a conversation starter, but not because it's flashy, because it feels different. It feels genuine. And that's the real draw of bench seats made from single rough slabs. They don't just function as places to sit. They bring a presence into a space that's hard to describe but easy to feel. They carry the weight of the tree, the weight of time, and the touch of the craftsman's hand. And in their quiet, grounded way, they remind us that not everything has to be fast, polished, or perfect. Sometimes, the most beautiful pieces are the ones that still carry a little bit of the wild. Bench seats made from single rough slabs are furniture without pretense. They don't try to disguise what they are. You can see every inch of grain, every knot, every irregularity. This isn't a bench made of polished, factory-mill pieces. It's a section of tree, flattened where it needs to be, and left wild everywhere else. The top is the star. A single slab, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches thick, cut from oak, maple, walnut, ash, or even reclaimed beams. The edges are rarely straight. Sometimes they're live, bark still clinging in places. Sometimes the bark's been removed, leaving a jagged, rolling edge that feels more natural than any perfect line ever could. The surface is planed and sanded, smooth enough to sit on, but not so polished that it loses its character. You can still see the tool marks if you look close. You can still feel the rise and fall of the grain. Some slabs run 10 feet long for communal seating. Others are just a few feet, personal, almost like a meditation bench. Each one carries its own weight, literally and visually. These are not lightweight pieces. A single bench can weigh 100 pounds or more, and that heft is part of the appeal. You don't move it around on a whim. It feels permanent, grounded. The legs vary, but they never compete with the slab. Some benches use raw wood blocks, simple, chunky supports cut from the same tree. Others use sleek metal frames, blackened steel, brushed aluminum, to contrast with the roughness of the seat. Some use trestle bases or angled wooden beams, giving the bench a low, grounded stance. But whatever the support, it's always there to hold, not to distract. The slab stays the focus. And the cracks? They are not flaws. They are part of the story. Most slabs develop splits over time, especially at the ends. Some builders fill them with resin, clear or dark, so the gap becomes part of the design. Others leave them open, stabilized with butterfly joints, letting the bench breathe without breaking. These details aren't hidden. They are celebrated. You don't stain these benches in bright colors. At most, you oil them. Tung oil, Danish oil, or matte polyurethane, just enough to bring out the depth in the wood and protect it from wear. The finish stays natural, warm, honest. Nothing that makes the wood look fake or glossy. Placed indoors, these benches act like sculptures as much as furniture. In a living room, an entryway, or alongside a dining table, they add weight and authenticity that no store-bought seating can replicate. Outdoors, under a porch or in a garden, they weather naturally. The wood silvers with time, hairline cracks deepen, and the bench starts to feel even more like it belongs where it is. And when you sit on one, it doesn't feel like a chair. It feels like a surface, a slice of something old, shaped just enough for human use. There's no padding, no frills, just solid wood under you. Smooth enough not to catch, solid enough to remind you what it's made of. Making one isn't complex, but it's deliberate. You start with the right slab, dried so it won't twist or split apart. You flatten the top, maybe with a planer or router sled, but you keep the natural character along the edges. You cut it to length, shape the ends, seal the bark if you're keeping it, or peel it clean if not. Then you choose a base, something simple, something stable. Attach it, level it, oil the wood, step back. Done. No unnecessary carving, no ornate shaping, just a tree, turned horizontal, built to last for decades. That's what makes bench seats made from single rough slabs stand apart. They don't just hold people, they hold presence. They remind you of the size, weight, and permanence of real wood, something most modern furniture has long forgotten. You don't just sit on them, you sit with them.